The plane hummed steadily as it cut through the night sky. Most passengers had settled into a quiet rhythm, some whispering to neighbors, some absorbed in glowing screens, and many dozing off in their seats. In row 10, near the middle of the cabin, a young woman sat curled against the window. Her head leaned slightly to the side, her breathing even, her face softened by the dim cabin lights. To anyone else, she looked like just another exhausted traveler trying to get home. Her name was Captain Emma Cole, though few on this plane would ever know that. She wasn't wearing her uniform, nor the medals she had earned in her years of service. To the strangers around her, she was simply a quiet passenger in jeans and a sweatshirt. But behind those closed eyes lived memories that could shake anyone to the core: dogfights in the desert sky, late-night emergency landings, and the weight of decisions that balanced between life and death. The flight was smooth until the sudden jolt. The aircraft shuddered, dipping for a brief second before stabilizing again. Passengers straightened in their seats, some gasping, others gripping armrests. Then came the announcement, the kind of announcement no one ever wants to hear. "Ladies and gentlemen," the captain's voice cracked slightly over the intercom, betraying a hint of strain. "We're experiencing some unexpected technical difficulties. We have a situation in the cockpit. If there are any combat pilots or individuals with flight experience on board, please make yourselves known immediately." The cabin fell into stunned silence. People looked around, confused, frightened. A mother clutched her toddler tighter. A businessman whispered, "This can't be happening." And there, in row 10, Emma stirred awake. Her heart jolted at the words. For a moment, she remained still, letting the weight of the announcement sink in. She had hoped this was just another routine flight home, a quiet journey where she could finally let her guard down. But life had a strange way of reminding her that some callings could never truly be left behind. She stood slowly, her voice steady despite the pounding in her chest. "I'm a pilot," she said firmly, her words cutting through the tense murmur of the cabin. Heads turned, eyes widened, whispers followed her as she made her way down the aisle. The flight attendants moved quickly, relief washing over their faces. "Please come with us," one of them said urgently, guiding her toward the cockpit. As Emma stepped inside, the scene was tense. The captain was pale, one hand pressed against his chest, his co-pilot frantically juggling controls and communication with air traffic control. I can't continue," the captain gasped, pain etching every word. A medical team was already on its way to the back of the plane, but the cockpit needed more than a doctor right now. It needed a steady hand. Emma slid into the seat, her movements instinctive, muscle memory taking over. Her hands found the controls like an old friend. "I've got it," she said calmly to the co-pilot, who exhaled a shaky breath of relief. For the next 45 minutes, she worked side by side with the co-pilot, guiding the aircraft through turbulence, rerouting their course, and managing the systems under strain. The passengers behind them had no idea that their lives now depended on the woman from row 10, the same woman who had boarded quietly, unnoticed, just hours before. Inside the cabin, fear spread like wildfire. A teenage boy whispered to his father, "Are we going to crash?" An elderly man prayed softly, rosary beads clutched in trembling hands. But amid the fear, something else began to stir. Stories of the mysterious woman spread down the rows. "She used to fly combat missions," one passenger said. "She's got this," another added, almost as if saying it aloud would make it true. Emma kept her focus razor sharp. Her mind flashed back to missions overseas, the roar of engines, the sharp commands, the split-second decisions. She remembered the men and women who had trusted her in the sky, their lives tethered to her skill and courage. Tonight the stakes were different, but the responsibility felt just the same. As they approached the runway, visibility was low. The storm that had built outside now lashed rain against the windows. The plane shook under crosswinds, alarms flickering on the control panel. The co-pilot's knuckles whitened around the throttle. "I'm not sure we can land in this," he muttered. Emma's voice was calm but firm. "We don't have a choice. Trust me." With every ounce of focus, she guided the plane downward. Her hands were steady, her breath controlled. The passengers held on to whatever they could, silent prayers echoing in their hearts. The ground came into view, lights piercing through the rain. The wheels screeched as they touched down, the plane jolting before settling into a controlled roll along the wet runway. A moment of silence hung in the air. Then applause. Relief surged through the cabin like a wave. People cried, laughed, hugged strangers beside them. Life had been given back to them in the most unexpected way. Emma stayed in the cockpit until the aircraft came to a full stop. Only then did she unbuckle, her body trembling with adrenaline and exhaustion. She wasn't looking for recognition, she just wanted everyone safe. But as she stepped out into the cabin, all eyes turned to her. Passengers stood clapping louder now, some with tears streaming down their faces. The mother with the toddler reached out. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. The elderly man pressed his rosary into her hand. "An angel sent from above," he said softly. Emma smiled faintly, humbled and overwhelmed. "I just did what needed to be done," she replied, her voice quiet but strong. Hours later, when everyone had disembarked and emergency crews had taken over, Emma found herself walking alone through the terminal. She sat on a bench, finally letting herself breathe. She thought of the faces on that plane, the fear, the hope, the gratitude. And in that moment, she realized something profound. For years, she had carried the weight of her service in silence, unsure if her sacrifices had truly mattered. But tonight, on an ordinary flight with ordinary people, her skills had saved lives again. And maybe, just maybe, that was the reminder she had needed, that her purpose wasn't tied only to war or medals. It was tied to humanity itself. Somewhere in the crowd of passengers now calling loved ones and wiping tears, people would carry her story forward. Not the details of her missions or the medals she had earned, but the simple truth of a woman who rose from row 10 when the world needed her most. And maybe the little boy who had asked if they were going to crash would remember her courage one day when life asked him to be brave. Maybe the mother holding her child would tell the story as a bedtime tale, teaching her daughter that heroes don't always wear uniforms. Emma stood, shoulders a little straighter, heart a little lighter. She didn't need applause, nor headlines, nor recognition. She only needed this, the quiet knowledge that in the moment of crisis, she had chosen compassion, courage, and service, again. Because sometimes, the most extraordinary acts of humanity happen not on battlefields, nor in history books, but in the unlikeliest of places, like row 10 of a passenger plane. And sometimes, the heroes among us are the ones who seem most ordinary until life calls them forward.